Credit Mix, where credit and finance meets news of the week. I'm Sandra Bernardo, Manager of Consumer Education.
And I'm Carrie Roberts, Community Manager of Social.
So we wanted to chit-chat today about, obviously, something super exciting on a global stage. The Olympics are coming.
Yes.
They start on the 9th. Are you much into Winter Olympics?
You know what? I kind of always forget about it. I mean, I feel like when Summer Olympics happens, it's kind of like, oh yeah, Summer Olympics and opening ceremony. But I forget about Winter Olympics. Maybe just I'm trying to think about what kind of sports are in Winter Olympics.
Right. I think most people like ice skating. That seems to be the most popular, and the snowboarding with Shaun White.
I didn't know that there was even snowboarding. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think some of those, are popular, but there's a ton of other sports that most people don't even know about, like the luge and something called curling.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were, reading some interesting articles because I've always been fascinated at, how much time and effort, obviously, the athletes put into pursuing their sport, but how do they, actually have a living? Like, how do they maintain their lifestyle when they really can't work all that much since they have to train so much?
I was going to say, I'm sure their training schedules, is pretty rigorous, and how could you have a regular, not like we're coming to work Monday through Friday for 40 hours and then training.
Exactly. So I was reading some articles, and I just kind of wanted to share because I thought this was super interesting, where many of them kind of piece together just part-time here, maybe get some funding from the U.S. Olympic Committee, which is a nonprofit. So the government doesn't actually give money to any of the athletes. The committee is a nonprofit, so they're raising funds to obviously then be able to subsidize, the athletes. And I was reading that Dick's Sporting Goods actually has a program for athletes where they can work there, sort of in between their training or part-time, like a flexible schedule. I thought that was really cool. It's called the Contender Program.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a really great idea, and good for Dick's for doing that.
Right, exactly.
And then if they win, though, they do get money. Did you know that athletes do earn something?
I did learn about that recently, right? I had no idea that they would get money when once they win. So that's awesome.
So the government gives them, so if you're a gold medal winner, you get $37,000 or so. Silver is $22,500, and then bronze gets $15,000, and that is not taxed, which is a good thing. Which they changed that law not too long ago because before they got taxed on that.
So I mean, I feel like I don't know anything about the Olympics now because so is there? So what if you don't place? You don't get any money?
So if you don't place, you don't get the prize money, no. But a lot of athletes I was reading, obviously, do it for the competition and just the pursuit, not so much the wealth, obviously. They have these life experiences. They go all over the world to travel. And I was reading an article about a couple athletes, former Olympians, turned into financial advisors. So one of the reasons is because of maybe mismanagement of their funds as Olympians. In fact, one athlete, his name is David Emma, and he was on the 1992 hockey team. And he played a little bit of pro after that, but hurt his back, so his career was cut short. And he actually lost 85% of his net worth, he said, because his financial advisor had invested a lot of his money in technology stocks. And then we had that bubble, remember, years ago. And so he lost most of his net worth, he said. So based on that experience, he didn't want that to happen to other athletes, and wanted to, make sure he was able to move forward. He became a financial advisor.
Well, that's awesome. What a way to give back. To other fellow, athletes like himself, and being that, he's been down the road before, and don't want them to, tread on that same path that he did.
Right. Because I'm sure some of them too, the more well-known athletes will get endorsement deals and sponsorships from brands, and so they might come into, a lot of money actually, and, need to manage that appropriately because their career is so short-lived. Especially, it's not like playing a pro sport here like NFL where you maybe have many years of playing. Once you're done with your Olympic achievement, what's next? So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then a couple tips that they had in general that was, analogous to being an Olympian is think long term. So you're training, once you're little to reach the Olympics, maybe 10 years from that time. It's the same thing with financial management, right? Think long term, where you're going to invest and how you're going to, make money after your career is over type of thing. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then all kinds of other things like, have a plan, have the right people, right team in place. So as an athlete, you need the right nutritionist, the right trainer. So you need the right financial advisor, right, to help you out. So anyways, I thought that was a fun tie-in with, financial topics.
Well, that's awesome. Can't wait to watch now. And now I know more about more behind of it and that they actually get money. So it's great.
Yeah, so that'll be a good thing. And it starts on February 9th for those of you who don't.
So almost.
Yeah, almost
tomorrow.
Here.
Tomorrow, Friday. Okay.
Tune in. And then another thing coming up is Valentine's Day. So many of you, I'm sure, are planning some romantic celebration for your honey and all of that. But what we wanted to talk about was to be careful for those of you who are single and dating and you're online, be careful of romance scams.
Right.
So this is actually really huge. And I think most people who are online dating probably don't think it can happen to them, right? But in fact, last year, the FBI reports there were 15,000 romance scams.
Wow.
Which is a 20% increase from 2016. So it's actually getting
huge.
worse,
That's
not
huge.
better. And the reported losses of the victims were more than $230 million. So it's not just...
That's like a different level of catfishing than someone. I mean, it's like catfishing to the ultimate when then you're also, being able to scam someone and to get money from, oh my gosh, wow.
And so the normal scenarios are, the criminals put a fake profile up with fake photos, fake information. And obviously the profile looks too good to be true, right? They're attractive, they have all these great attributes, and so they start to befriend their victims and try to start that online relationship. And once they feel like they're getting some trust, then they will unveil some scenario where they need money.
Got it.
So they can start saying, well, I live out of state or out of the country and I need money to be able to come and see you, meet you in person. So can you send me some money? Or they'll say they have a sick relative or some, extreme scenario where they need you to wire thousands of dollars
and you've
to
already,
them.
Gotten so, close to this person and starting to have these, feelings about them. And so in that moment, you're like, oh, what can I do to help you? I have these feelings for you. You've had this exchange for a long time. Oh my gosh.
Right. And unfortunately, most of the victims are women, 82%, and those that are between the age of 40 and 60 or so. I don't know, I guess maybe because women are a little bit more open to sharing information and want to, engage and get close with someone.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we wanted to give some tips about that. So obviously, one thing is be a tease, right? So meaning don't share so much personal information on your profile, number one. And then as you're getting to know them on the phone and, as you're emailing, don't share too much information like where you work or how much money you make, how much, is in your accounts, right? Information about your children, because you never know. They can also steal personal information from you to then steal your identity and open accounts. So it's not just the fact that they're going to ask you for the money and you actually send it, but they can start pulling personal information from you and stealing your identity, and then they can go off and maybe open a credit card, for example. So you want to be careful. The second thing is do some research. So now everyone has more than one online presence. So you can Google them and see if they have a LinkedIn account, a Facebook, something. So
especially I feel like a lot of online profiles now have that connection where the base is Facebook or Instagram, and so you can go from that to the Instagram and then, do your research. I've done that before. Just another way, to figure out who the person is. But yeah.
And if they don't have anything, that could be a red flag, because most people have at least something else online. And then also, have you ever used a search engine to look up pictures? I don't think a lot of people know you can do that.
Yes, that's like when I go back towards when I was mentioning catfishing, from that show MTV Catfish, and about people doing that. And actually, one of my cousins, it happened to her, where basically she found out that that someone was using one of her photos, and she dropped one of her pictures into Google to did a Google search and was able to find all of it, so they can shut everything down. So yeah, they use that on catfish all the time. It's almost like a reverse lookup for a phone number or something, and put it in and see populates and what and that's how she found out that there was fake online dating profiles.
So how did she contact where
she
those
reached
photos...
out to the site that managed whatever it was, the Match.com or whatever it was, and then told them that this is like fraudulent, this is not me. I think she had to go through some kind of a thing where she has to like verify like who she is, you know, validity, you know, that way. I mean, it's the same way I feel like when people start like fake Instagram profiles where you can report them, and then then you have to show proof, like even if it's like something with like a picture of you and your driver's license or whatever, or something, just show that it's valid, that you're the person, and then they'll go ahead and deactivate it. Or if people are saying, you know, they're all fraudulent and keep reporting, I'm sure they have some kind of thing to take them down.
Yeah, I've always wondered how you would go about it.
But yeah, it's so interesting you can do that. I mean, I've actually done it to buy furniture before from a picture in a model home, and I took the picture and I put it on Google search and I found the piece. So it works.
Yeah, okay.
Not just to find people.
Yeah.
Or like fake profiles.
Right. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people know that, so that's a really good tip to look up those pictures. And then certainly you get a second opinion, right, about the suitor. So you might be too close to a situation, you start developing feelings, you might not be in a right mind.
Love is blind.
Yeah, exactly. So if you share the information in the profile with family, friends, you know, get the second opinion, maybe they'll see some red flags and point those out to you because they're in a much more neutral position, right?
Right.
And then lastly, and most importantly, hold on to your money. Do not send someone any money, whether it's a check, a wire, you know, whatever. Just don't do it. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
And if it seems, you know, fishy and too good to be true, it probably is. So
don't do it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust your gut, I feel like, too. I mean, just, I feel like sometimes you have that intuition sometimes, or maybe like the little tap on the shoulder, but you're kind of ignoring it. But in the end, you're like, darn, I should have, you know, paid attention. And so, you know, trust that intuition, you know, inside as well.
Absolutely. And for more information about these scams and identity theft in general, you can always go to our website, our educational blog at Experian.com/education.
Yeah, check
And
that
I know we
article
have
out.
another blog post about like the top scams, right, of 2017.
2017. I mean, some of them I feel like are that actually targeted brands that we're very familiar with when it comes to like Netflix. On Netflix had the whole email phishing scam, and how that one was basically you would get an email stating that you had a payment that was declined, you know, for your subscription service, and it wants you to go in and click a link to put in your new information. And so obviously it's like, don't do that. Type in like Netflix, you know, .com in the account, go into your account, log in and do it that way.
Right.
That was one of them. Airbnb was another one where basically they would set up a whole profile of like a fake house. And then once you start the communication process, they kind of take you off of the Airbnb site to complete like the actual payment itself. I've actually almost fell victim to something like this, you know, similar, where they were trying to take communication off, because when you're in Airbnb, you want to keep the communication within because they can see it. And so if there's any discrepancy, you can go to Airbnb and say, hey, they were telling me to do this, or this wasn't in the listing, they want me to pay an extra $500 or whatever.
Right.
And that way they'll be able to have and you know, to see that and be privy to the conversation. But yeah, they'll try to get you to go and off of the site and then to complete like a payment, you know, in a certain way. So
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, that was one. And then the other one I know that was on that blog is about yes calls, and where people call you and they're like, oh, can you hear me? And you're all, yes. And basically they're using this, they can capture, you know, a recording of your voice. They can make like fraudulent charges like over the phone. Gosh, I mean, people are so smart. You would think, especially for that one, I feel like that's a very easy one to maybe even fall for.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's like, yes, I can hear you, you know,
So watch out for those. And again, we have more information about that on our blog.
Yeah.
And lastly, something else in the news that I think really got people's attention was about the Dow Jones and how it dropped dramatically, and it's kind of in a turbulent market. And so basically, what should you do, right? As just a layman's person, you're just thinking about your 401k,
right.
And worried about what's going to happen or what you should do. So basically, you know, a couple articles and experts have said, really, you don't need to do anything. Don't panic. Don't worry about it. This happens in the market all the time.
This happen all the time, exactly.
And if it's a long-term investment like your 401k, then you don't really need to do anything because it'll bounce back and normalize, you know, hopefully in the near future.
Right.
The good news is about the economy, though, it's accelerating. It seems like those corporate tax cuts, as I mentioned before, are really kicking in. And a couple of good things is that unemployment is at a 17-year low right now. And then the average hourly wage has increased, and you know, overall 2.9%, which is the fastest rate in nearly 9 years.
That's
so
great.
A couple of good signs there, right, to balance out the turbulence of the market. And basically some of the tips are actually don't look at your 401k, right? Because you don't want to panic.
I almost did. I was like, should I go log in and see? But then I'm trying to remember, do I even know really what the balance really was before? I guess you can probably see a transactional, like maybe, you know, daily chart that shows the,
right.
Yeah, but I haven't even looked.
No, I
thought about
either.
it this morning, actually. That's so funny. And I was like, I'm good. Leave. I'm
yeah,
fine.
because it just stresses you out, and you know, you don't need that.
Right.
And what you can focus on really is more positive things like, hey, maybe it's a good time just to check your finances in general, right? And look at your budget. Experts recommend take this time to just look at your progress of your goals for the year. And then actually, if you're not investing in 401k, you should. And now is a good time to do so anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
And in fact, only a third of people overall enroll in 401k, which is really low. So take advantage of that with your employer. You know, get the match. A lot of employers do a match, so you want to get enough to reap that benefit. And then basically, you know, we'll see how things net out, but I
think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think it'll balance out. So if you have any questions about that, you know, feel free to send a shout out to us at #TheCreditMix on Twitter. And you can always also look at our blog for articles just about 401k in general at Experian.com/education. So that's it for today.
That's it.
We hope to see you next week. We're always here every week, and I would love to hear from you on, you know, any topics that you want us to address. Again, give us a shout out, or you can always join us and send us your questions.
Absolutely.
And look forward to seeing you again next week.
See you next week, guys.
Bye-bye.